I guess with Fukushima, the big story of the day.
Yes, French papers are headlining on this this morning. 2 years since the Fukushima disaster, and La Croix, the Catholic daily, has had one of their journalists go inside the site with unprecedented access, where she has a look at how the cleanup operation's going. Now, she reports on the very strict safety regulations she had to adhere to on the site, all the protective clothing and the heavy masks she had to wear, saying that no photography or filming is actually allowed within the complex. The verdict she gives is that the cleanup is going a lot slower than we'd all anticipated. It's under control for now, but could take 30 or 40 years to fully resolve. Now, Libération is leading on the same story. Their article inside the papers really asking why so many countries, even after these risks and these consequences we've seen in Japan, why we're still so enthralled to nuclear energy. They highlight the anti-nuclear movement that sprang up in the wake of this disaster, saying that it struggled to gain ground, it didn't really make any progress, and they're really highlighting the human cost of something like this. They quote a study that says some 1,300 people could die of cancers directly caused by the levels of radioactivity in the area. And they take a larger look at the process of denuclearization around the world. For example, they say that Tokyo now has more or less torn up the agreement they had to lower their reliance on nuclear energy. The previous government had agreed to that. They've forgotten all about that now because they're spending so much money on importing energy. And they also say that in European countries, it's often a case of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, with a lot of countries saying that nuclear energy is the greenest they've got for the moment. So they're really highlighting that for France, it's something we need to tackle now, because France is number 2 in the world, of course, for nuclear production. And they take that comparison 1 step further by saying, what if Fukushima happened in France today? What would the consequences be? Well, they estimate that it would cost the government 430 million euros, so that it really needs to invest in preventative measures.
Not something it could probably afford given the state of its finances, and that's where we head next, an alleged unpaid debt.
Yes, France's finance is not very healthy right now, as we all know. Our local paper, Le Parisien, is headlining on Paris's unpaid tab with Brussels. Apparently, France could owe the EU 9 billion euros because of recent fiscal adjustments. That is, they passed through tax law that contravened EU law, and now France will have to pay the EU back those taxes it collected, which was not quite regulation. Now, they have a little illustration inside the paper showing us what we could buy with that kind of money. Now, I had a few suggestions, but they say that there's 32 large hospitals you could get. You could get 3 aeroplane hangars like the ones you find at Charles de Gaulle Airport, or it's also the equivalent to a whole year's budget for the Ministry of Justice, which is really rubbing salt in the wound. We might be losing this money. Now, the local paper has an editorial on the same page that takes a really very anti-Europe stance on this, which is really, they go very far, saying this kind of expenditure would be catastrophic in these times of austerity. The debt is the fault of negligent, incompetent members of parliament who didn't see it coming, who should have thought of this before. And they say that even though the European project, the Union, has brought stability to countries like France, it's also making us lose our sovereignty. So very anti-Brussels there.
Europe bashing is in fashion, Olivia.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, well, the French, obviously, as you were explaining, feeling a little bit out of pocket at the moment. And they're blaming François Hollande, who's now a very unpopular president.
Always the scapegoat. François Hollande, according to Le Figaro, is in a spiral of unpopularity. And it's not the first time they've headlined on this. They like to flag up when he's...
even Sarkozy,
when he's
the previous
not
least popular president.
It's true, exactly. They're talking about the curve that's going down, and it's catastrophic for him. Now, they've linked that to the news that he's going to the Côte d'Or in Bourgogne today, a visit of 2 days, which they say is really quite unprecedented. 2 days on a regional visit, which shows just how seriously he's taking this unpopularity. An editorial in Libération, who are normally kinder to the president, say that these popularity figures, if you take the latest surveys, for example, 32% of people polled thought he wasn't tackling the public debt crisis or improving the economy. So he's going to go to Bourgogne and flag up all the success of local small businesses, youth training schemes, and show that there are some places in France that are doing okay.
For that tour of the French press, our thanks to Olivia Salazar-Winspear. It's a good reminder of the world news headlines now, and remembrance and protest in Japan, the country.